I wanted to make a video about my favorite shows of 2024 so far. Several of these are going to be shows that are new out in 2024, and the fifth entry, I guess, will be just a few of the shows that I've watched that are a little bit older, but that I've watched this year. So they're not new to 2024, but they're new to me in 2024, and that's good enough for me. So I'll start with Shogun. Shogun on Hulu. It was an FX Hulu production, and based on the James Clavell novel of the same name. Now, I really enjoyed Shogun from start to finish. I thought it was really strong in terms of costuming, in terms of music, cinematography. The whole production was just, honestly, it was pretty breathtaking. Great cast from both the Japanese and non-Japanese actors. Now, I haven't read the book. I've started the book a couple of times, but it's very long, and I have a lot of books to read, and this one I decided consciously to wait and watch the show first. I just thought, let's see how the show is. If I really like it, maybe I'll like it more without reading the book, because sometimes you read the book, then you watch the show or the movie, and that can ruin the show or the movie. Sometimes it's nice just to go in blind, so I did that. Now this is the story of a guy named John Blackthorne, who is an English pilot on a ship a Portuguese ship, a Danish ship that sails to Japan at a time when only the Portuguese have any sort of trading relations with Japan, and Japan has essentially been kept secret from the non-Catholic world. At this time. The Spanish and the Portuguese have the largest naval empires, and they have essentially divided up the world, the unexplored world, the non-Western world between them. Japan is in Portuguese territory. So the English and their allies are the Protestant, anti-Catholic. They want to get a piece of that pie. They want to put a dent in Portuguese power and trade, and that is the goal of Blackthorne. They arrive. Only a few of the crew are alive still. Many of them have died from disease and starvation. And he is taken prisoner along with the rest of his crew and sort of ends up being brought into this big conflict between different factions in Japan as they sort of vie for power and the ultimate top dog seat of Shogun. So what follows is it's a lot of scheming and politicking, and it's in a lot of ways it's very foreign. So people compare it to Game of Thrones, but the politics and customs of Japan are in many ways more foreign to us than the politics and customs of Westeros, because Westeros is based on European and Western customs and tradition. There's a little bit of romance and a lot of really great performances from all the actors. All right, so next up, Fallout. Now, I just made a video about Fallout, so you know my thoughts on that if you've watched that video, but I really enjoyed Fallout. I'm not a huge player of the Fallout games. I have played several of them, but they're not like dear to me in any way. This is not, something dear to me would be Dark Souls, right? Fallout I've always found to be kind of a great setting with a cool vibe, but ultimately kind of not my cup of tea when it comes to actual gameplay. I find it just laborious, tedious, and too much to do, and not enough time generally. And I just don't enjoy the combat. So while I like the Fallout setting and I like all that, I don't really care that much about the games. But I did really love the show. I thought it was very funny. I thought, a lot of people have criticized it for having plot holes or for having like tonal dissonance. But I thought I think that the games also have tonal dissonance. They're funny, but they're dark, right? They're violent. They deal with this post-war apocalyptic society that's really kind of horrifying, but also this sort of retro-futuristic aesthetic and this sense of humor that is, it's a very comedic series. And I thought that the show did a great job. I thought that Ella Purnell and Walton Goggins did a phenomenal job in their roles as Lucy and the Ghoul. And it was just one of those shows that really just caught me right up from the beginning and all the way through to the end. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but it was enjoyable enough that I could overlook the things that didn't quite make sense. That's often not the case. I watch a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies where the plot holes or the inconsistencies or the weird character motivations drive me crazy and I can't get past them. And then I make lots of videos that, night country, you bastard. But in Fallout, I know there were these problems, but I enjoyed it so much that I didn't really care. It did not diminish the show for me. I think that hopefully season 2 will be even better, that they will learn, because this is the first season. This was an impressive first season, honestly. And hopefully they take what they learned and they make an even better season 2. But I loved the mystery, and I don't know. Obviously, this was a divisive show in a lot of ways. A lot of people have react. I've seen comments on my review of people that really, really didn't like it, other people who really, really liked it, and other people who kind of had, mixed feelings, but ultimately liked it despite the fact that it had problems. So I personally, I didn't even really notice a lot of the problems. And the problems that I did have, like with the motivation of Vault Tech, I just decided it wasn't going to bother me. And you have to do that at some point. At some point, you have to decide, is this going to really be something that makes me not enjoy this? For me, I have to turn off my critic brain sometimes and just say, you know what, I enjoy this. And that leads me to the third show on this list, which is Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, based off his movie, The Gentleman. But this is a series on Netflix. This is one of those shows where I wasn't watching it as a critic. I wasn't watching it to write about it, although I probably should write about it. And it just ended up being so much fun. And it's not like a masterpiece of filmmaking. It's just light, sort of heist-driven, comedic British crime stuff. It's kind of what you'd expect. It's sort of a posh Guy Ritchie crime thriller comedy. Lots of violence, lots of... if you've seen any, I started watching Guy Ritchie back with Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And I haven't been like a huge Guy Ritchie follower in recent years because some of his stuff has really not been good, I think. And this show really kind of won me back over to the Guy Ritchie camp. I never saw the movie. Now I want to see the movie. I also really want to go see The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare because it's Guy Ritchie, but it's also, Henry Cavill, and it's World War II, which I love World War II stuff. Although oddly enough, one show you won't find on this list today is Masters of Air, which I have not watched yet. Yeah, so The Gentleman. It's about a family, a rich family. The father dies, and the younger brother inherits everything. He becomes the Duke, and discovers, spoilers, that there's a drug, a crime family that's operating a marijuana farm on his property. And soon he learns that this is kind of a big organization that has the same type of marijuana farms on multiple sort of old English estates throughout the country. And he wants to get out of this, but to get out of this, he's got to help them do this and that and that and this. And one thing leads to another, and it's chaos and violence and, kidnappings and there's, different factions involved, and all this sort of crazy stuff happens. And it's just a lot of fun. It's never really that serious. There's a lot of over-the-top bad guys and conflicts that they have to work their way out of. And it's got what's his face, Theo James. I don't know. He was in the White Lotus season 2, and he's the main character, and he's great. Very, very posh, charming British guy. So that's a fun show. That's probably the lightest of the shows on this list today. I haven't watched a lot of comedies this year. I probably should. I could probably use it, but that one was just a fun romp, and I really enjoyed it. On the other side of the spectrum from fun romp, we have Baby Reindeer, which will be my fourth show here. Baby Reindeer is based on a true story. This Scottish comedian Richard Gadd had a stalker. Now we know who the real stalker is. It's all gotten sort of bigger than the show now. It was a huge success on Netflix, which is crazy. It seems kind of like this sort of indie small production, but it ended up just blowing up. But his character, Donnie Dunn, is the fictionalized version of himself. Donnie's character ends up being stalked by this woman, Martha, who's much older than him, and he sort of has a terrible time with boundaries. So the stalking just gets worse, and he doesn't put an end to it, which, obviously makes it worse and worse and worse. And then we start to learn more and more about his own past traumas, and it's very dark. There's a real hardcore turn about halfway through where we learn some of the stuff that happened to him a few years earlier that explains a lot of his his problems with dealing with Martha in a healthy, mature way. And from here, it takes some interesting twists and turns. What I think that really drove this story home for me was how well it ended. It's just a really well written show that treats each character with a lot of depth and I would say respect, even for characters who are kind of horrible. We get a lot of empathy for them, especially Martha. She's given a great deal of empathy and depth, and seeing sort of Donnie's obsession, the sort of reverse obsession that he has with her, and how that plays out in a sort of cyclical way is super fascinating, and also like very, very emotional. I found myself quite emotional watching this show. So I really recommend that. It's very different from all the other shows on this list, and it's honestly, it's quite brilliant and devastating and powerful, and since it's all based on true stuff, of course, it's all filtered out into the internet, and everyone's has been trying to figure out who's who in the series, and we just had actually the woman Fiona Harvey as the real life version, or real life person who Martha is based on, and she was just on the Piers Morgan show, and seems very much to be the real deal, the exact sort of character that Martha is based on. Anyways, moving on, we will talk about the final show on this list, but this is actually going to be an amalgamation of different shows. I've been really kind of obsessed with British police dramas this year. I don't know, I've just gotten into that, and I've been watching a lot of older shows and shows that have had, I guess what kind of got me into it was Happy Valley. So I'd seen advertisements for Happy Valley, and some people had mentioned Happy Valley as something that I should watch. So without spoiling too much, Happy Valley it's a police drama that deals a lot with, it's sort of part, it really reminds me of Mayor of Easttown, right? It's very much like a character-driven, family-driven story of what's both very personal and intimate crimes that take place that very much have to do with this specific family. But it also reminds me of Fargo, at least the early seasons of Fargo, where you have like the actions of normal people that sort of play into the hands of criminals and lead to really, really bad things happening outside of their control, things that they didn't intend to happen, but because they chose that dark path, that criminal path, those things go very, very wildly wrong. And it's a very, very, very intense show. Both in terms of its emotional impact, but also there are just some moments especially in the first season, where I was on the edge of my seat, like literally about to fall off the edge of my seat because I was so drawn into this story and into these very, very intense moments of conflict within the story. There's 3 seasons of Happy Valley, and it really, really wraps up well. So many shows end badly. So many shows go downhill. Another great British drama is Broadchurch, police drama. First season is absolutely brilliant, and then it just collapses in season 2. And I didn't even watch season 3. I also watched The Fall this year, Gillian Anderson, police drama that takes place in Ireland. Season 1 was great, and then it just goes off into the weeds in season 2. Again, I started season 3, and I had to shut it off in frustration. And so Happy Valley is a wonderful example of a 3-season show that manages to be very, 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 very powerful all throughout. Another 2 other shows that I watched that are a little bit older. The first is Line of Duty. I actually ended up binging all 6 seasons of Line of Duty over the last couple weeks when I was sick and just kind of going through some stuff. It was great to have a show to just binge, and it was very, very, very compelling, exciting. The first 3 seasons of Line of Duty are by far the best. It's a show about an anti-corruption unit within the Midlands Police Department in the UK. And it's, fictional department. It doesn't actually exist, but it's about the police officers within that anti-corruption department that are investigating police corruption, especially police corruption that has to do with organized crime. And the first 3 seasons are absolutely brilliant. The reason that I was turned on to the show in the first place is that Lenny James is one of the characters in season 1, one of the main characters. And, he plays Morgan in The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. And so a lot of people who've read my reviews or watched my reviews over the years of those shows were like, hey, actually, he can act. He's not, Morgan sucks, but the actor can actually act. And he was very good in Line of Duty. So I'm glad I watched that, but it really does start to go downhill at season 4. even further downhill at season 5, and season 6 is just total mess. It's made by Jed Mercurio. You may have seen the Bodyguard, which is a British Netflix show that has to do with the bodyguard of a politician in the UK, and that's a really great show as well. Richard Madsen, I believe, he's from Game of Thrones, and that's a fun one. But fun. It's not really fun. It's an exciting, dramatic show. Finally, the newest show in this segment of this list is a show called Blue Lights, which I imagine fewer people have heard of than maybe the other ones I've mentioned so far. This one, actually, season 1 came out in 2023, and 2024 season 2 came out, but I haven't been able to watch it yet because it's not available in the US. Now, I know I probably just use a VPN so I can watch it on the BBC iPlayer, but I haven't done that yet because I just haven't, that's an extra step, and I'm lazy. But so the first season was fantastic, though. It's an Irish police procedural that takes place in East Belfast, I believe. I think season 2 takes place in West Belfast. So it takes place in East Belfast, and it's just a lot to do with like the tensions between the police and the community. I mean, the police have to keep their identities a secret. Like, they don't wear their uniforms home. They check for bombs under their car every day before they go to work. It's pretty crazy, and it's definitely one that I highly recommend. I hear season 2 is even better, so I'm definitely going to have to get on that soon now that I've worked my way all the way through Line of Duty. Finally is a show called River, another British police drama. This has Stellan Skarsgård in it, and he is fantastic. Now, obviously, Stellan Skarsgård is always fantastic, right? He was so good in Andor and just really in everything he's been in, Baron Harkonnen in the Dune movies. He's been in a ton of stuff, right? But this may be his finest performance that I've seen. And partly that's because, it's a 6-episode limited series. He plays a Swedish detective, but he's a British citizen. He's lived there since he was a boy, or a teenager at least. And he has really, really major mental health issues, but he's brilliant, and he is very empathetic. So he's a really different character. He plays D.S. John River, so it's named after his character, the show. And he's investigating, I won't tell you what he's investigating. He's investigating a murder, but there's also some other cases he investigates on the side while he's investigating this bigger murder. It's only 6 episodes long. I'm actually, as I make this video, only 5 episodes through it. So I'm going to go finish this show today after I make this video. I don't know what happens, but it's just tremendous. It's so good. The conceit, which I won't say because it'll be a spoiler. It's so interesting and clever, and it just works so well for Skarsgård to just put on such a powerhouse performance. So he really shines in this, and it's well written, it's beautifully produced. It's a great show. So that's a lot of shows. That's more than 5. I guess it's 4 that came out this year, and then a few more for the price of 1 that came out in previous years. If you like British, this is how I work. I get obsessed with something. I've been obsessed with British and Irish, UK police procedurals, police dramas, and I have a BritBox subscription now, and so I'm just going to continue just watching the crap out of all of this stuff. And I hope you enjoy these. Several you've probably already seen, but let me know if any of these are, if these are shows that you've watched, what you think about them. Also, have you watched any shows this year that you really, really like and you'd like to recommend that you think I should watch and maybe make a video about? Let me know in the comments. I always love getting recommendations. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I've been on a bit of a hiatus here with my video content, and I apologize for that. It's just my own bullshit getting in the way of me doing this. So I thank you for your patience, and like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.